Okay.
I guess this is more with solar coming in.
All right, good morning. Welcome to the July 30th regular meeting of the Chenango County IDA Board. We'll go ahead and roll call ourselves in.
Corey here.
Raymond here.
Paul's here.
Woodford here.
Burton here. I will read the IDA mission statement. It is the mission of the Chenango County Industrial Development Agency to advance the health, prosperity, and welfare of the county citizens by helping to retain, create, and attract business through appropriate investments and incentives. Need a motion to approve the minutes of the June 26, 2024 regular meeting.
So moved.
Need a second?
Second.
Second by Stan. Any discussion, omissions, or corrections? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Corey, aye.
Raymond,
Paul's aye.
Woodford, aye.
Bert and I. We're gonna skip a little bit in the agenda now, due to time constraints for some of our board members. We do have a couple of things we need to vote on. So we're gonna skip down to pilots, which is section 8, and we're gonna go to subsection B, which is the NYS&W. Sal held a public hearing last night. Thank you, Sal, for doing that. And we'll get his report on that.
Yeah, it was attended by one person, the mayor, Terry, Burke is his name, the mayor of Oxford. And he was, Stark, excuse me, not Burke, yes, Terry Stark, and he was complimentary of the process, some confusion around the difference between land banking and abandonment, like just the terminology, but very, very supportive of the idea that we would move forward considering it as a potential rail trail. And so Nathan Fenno and Melanie Boyer were the only other ones here representing the railroad. They both appreciated the mayor's comments and said they too were in favor of these procedures as the applicant. Obviously it made a lot of sense. So I think there's still, the other thing that came up around from Mayor Stark was that there's confusion around who owns the railroad and who leases the railroad. That continues to be an issue. We couldn't answer it, but then afterwards, I know Mayor Stark's son, so I had a conversation with him. We just had a casual conversation, it's all public information, and he understands it differently. So no issue whatsoever.
Okay, great. Any questions for Sal in regards to the public hearing? No, and since there was no opposition at this time, and the public hearing's concluded, there was nothing submitted in writing or anything, Barb? No. Great. So we've got a couple of resolutions we need to pass. So the first is the seeker resolution. So need a motion to approve the seeker resolution at this time. Need a second?
Second.
Oh, I think our CB chair.
He's got it.
I know, it's quick. Any discussion around that? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Corey, aye.
Raymond,
Paul's aye.
Woodford, aye.
Bert and I, so that's approved. Now I need a motion for the final authorizing resolution.
Corey moves.
Need a second?
Second.
Second. Any discussion?
Fold seconded, John, just in case.
Hearing none, we'll vote.
Corey, aye.
Raymond,
Paul's aye.
Woodford, aye.
Bert and I. And then need a motion to approve the pilot agreement extension with NYS&W.
So moved.
Woodford moved, second.
second.
Second by Raymond. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Corey, aye.
Raymond,
Paul's aye.
Woodford, aye.
Bert and I. All right, perfect. All right, that's out of the way.
Good.
and easy.
Go right back to the normal, Brian.
Please share the good news with Nathan Fenno after the meeting. We'll go back to the financial report.
I'll go back. John, make sure you do a follow-up and then get back to Nathan Fennell. We want to know the resolution of that. I will have conversation today. I'll make sure I follow up with him. He has been very cooperative, Brian.
All right, so for the financials, nothing really has changed out of the ordinary except for the billing for High Bridge Wind annual pilot at the end of June. So that one is due. And then the interest that we're receiving on the IntraFi account was almost $4,100. So net activity year-to-date is 86,000. So things will change when the purchase of the preferred building will go through. Then, more numbers will change.
Any questions?
Pretty straightforward.
Okay. Motion to accept the financials.
Move.
Raymond, second.
Corey,
40 seconds. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Corey, aye.
Raymond, aye.
Bull's eye.
Bird, aye. Bills and invoices, these checks have already been signed. Had to get some of them out the door, but the invoices and vouchers were passed around today. The only thing out of the ordinary there is there's an extra $10,000 check to Von Schenk and King, and that's the down payment on the preferred building of $10,000. All right, need a motion to accept bills and invoices.
So move.
Second.
Polls and then RC. Any discussion? Hearing none, we'll vote.
Corey, aye.
Raymond, aye.
Bull's eye.
Bird, aye. Discussion about Norbit Solar Farm.
They were going to come, I sent them, we sent them the Teams link this morning, and
What were they presenting on? They'd asked the year to present.
yeah, they asked to be here, and they did not say anything specifically as to what they were gonna talk
Okay.
about, so.
So they can get on next month's.
Yep.
agenda.
Yeah,
We'll
they
get
kept
next
moving,
month.
moving.
Mhm.
All right,
Want to go to old business drive, and then we can go into executive session. I'll text Greg Sheldon right now and find out where he's at.
I was actually gonna do the paint solar project hearing.
Oh, I'm sorry, I apologize. I forgot we did that.
That's okay. So the paint solar project update, public hearing, Barb and I had a public hearing over in Bainbridge, the 17th, 15th, 18th, so like a week ago.
Yeah.
2 weeks ago. There was a lot of people in the room. A lot of questions. I can tell you the community is not 100% on board with this project. There's a lot of questions around transmission. A lot of what was brought up was benefit to the taxpayers. There were some questions about environmental impact. There doesn't seem to be an easy way to get the lines from the solar farm to the NICEAG substation without having less than desirable outcomes with it when it comes to aesthetics, things of that nature. A lot of people were upset at the public hearing that we would not answer their questions as they asked them. It was explained to them, the procedures, and there was an attorney in the room.
Dave DeClue, all of these people.
There was two attorneys, actually, Dave DeClue.
Yeah.
He did a lot of the speaking for us. He happens to be John Payne's attorney in this whole thing. But a lot of the questions that were answered by the public, he spoke up and answered. But he also explained that this is process and this is the way it works, and it's really an opportunity for the public to ask questions and get answers in regards to the pilot and the pilot alone. That was not necessarily the case. The case did not, the questions didn't always revolve around the pilot, but that's okay, right? So if we can get answers for people, let's get answers for them. Some of the questions that came up were around the tax benefit to the people, to the public. The fire department was well represented there. They asked questions in regards to fire equipment and if they would need special training when it comes to solar farms. I know with the windmill project, the answer to that question was yes in Guilford, but with solar panels, apparently it's no. I did some research on that, and you put it out with water just like you would any other fire. Again, a lot of the public wanted to know why we wouldn't answer their questions right then and there. There was some complaints about the accessibility of the pilot application beforehand and where to find it. It was explained that all documents would be available online. There was a number of people that asked, they wanted to know when the vote would take place and be invited. I did answer that question, just explained everything we do is public and that it is online when those meetings are. But I definitely think we should invite Phil Wade at the very least, give him a special invitation when we plan on voting on this pilot to be here.
I would suggest then that we also, so Brian, I try to answer the questions because Brian gave them to me in writing, so we try to say, okay, how would I answer these if I was gonna do the research on them, right, for all these people? And it follows the line of the phone calls I got from the majority of the people that are on there, Doris Schnabinger, Phil Wade, Dave DeClue have all called me to talk about the project. Come on in. Greg, come on in. We're on a public meeting right now. Greg Sheldon, we'll do introductions in just a minute. We'll finish this one portion. But I would characterize it like this. This is too simple, but I would characterize it like this. The village is somewhat opposed. The mayor and the village are somewhat opposed because the town is more supportive. Dolores and the town see the benefits to it. They see the tax benefits to it. They see the fact that it's utilizing property. The village has a lot of questions because of the aesthetics. And I think also because they weren't engaged with this from the beginning. So they weren't part of that. The town planning board has approved this. The town planning board has done some of the research. So again, I would say the town is supportive, but the village is not. A little too simplistic of a characterization. But I think that's what you'll see it'll boil down to when we get to that.
Overall, everybody was very nice and it was professional and whatnot. The school was there. They don't seem to be against the project, but they brought their attorney for our friends.
They just want more money.
They want
more money.
They want a higher per megawatt price.
They like the deal.
Yeah.
They like the thought of getting additional revenue. They just think, they ask questions like, have you benchmarked this against other, pilot programs, and how come they broke it into 4 fields? I didn't answer that. I don't know why. I can only assume why they would break it into 4 fields. But that's the company's decision, right? So I can't answer for them. It's to keep it under a certain megawatts, right? So, but I didn't want to say that. So, but again, I don't think there was any, other than the mayor and the fire department had questions. The mayor spoke against it. I don't think, he didn't really even ask questions. He just said there wasn't any benefits for the city, there wasn't any benefits for the village, there wasn't any, right? So he but we still answered some of it in the best way that we could. But other than that, I think that's where the opposition is. It's appeared in writing. You'll all see it, they'll be posted. John will have those posted today, right? Something today, tomorrow. John's working on a grant application, so maybe Friday we'll have those.
And it was the school's attorney that also brought up the difficulty in finding information in regards to the pilot prior to the public hearing. So we probably need to do a better job of that. That's on us. So
Yeah, probably.
we'll make sure we do that better in the future. It's the last paragraph of the public hearing statement that says contact Commerce Chenango at blah, blah, blah to get a copy of the papers beforehand. Let's face it, nobody's reading that last paragraph probably. So we'll do a better job of that in the future. It's a good recommendation. So, like I said, the school wasn't against it. They just want more per megawatt. Nobody had any issues with timeline or anything like that. So,
We want to set a vote for that for the next, we should, to keep the project moving.
yeah, so we can, I think, yes, we should set an agenda item to vote on that at the next IDA meeting.
And that'll give us the chance to let those people know we're going to do that.
Correct. I don't think the project's going anywhere anytime soon, regardless of whether we approve it or not at this point, the pilot at this point, but that's not for me to say. So, okay, any questions?
No, but just a comment on the public hearing law, it's designed to maximize the public's ability to speak, but it's also designed where there's no information exchange and people take time out of their day to go to these meetings and they leave after just facing a board who's just staring at them. I saw it in Smyrna, and I was glad that we had some conversation after, and if there's room to engage afterwards, it seems like that would be a nice way to design a public hearing, because I don't think it helps either.
No, the man he was a nice man, but he was a little frustrated at first. And Stark was like, wow, I guess I'll just say what I gotta say. I had a whole bunch of questions, but if you're not gonna answer them, I don't think I will. You know,
I think
I'm like,
there's-
so don't ask them, and we'll answer them afterwards. you
I
know?
think it creates some bad.
Yeah, I'll take it first.
uh,
It took a second to diffuse that.
Frustration. It'd be nice if we could tweak that a bit, and have a conversation after the public hearing is adjourned.
I'll look into, John, can you give me an action item to find out what's appropriate for when a meeting is adjourned for us to be able to have conversation? Because these are people from our community, not people we don't know.
So if you're gonna do it after, you might as well do it there.
That's what I'm trying to do. So
Honestly.
Probably
Yeah, I'm not
keep,
sure how
Because I
the-
think the law is there to prevent, to try to prevent in a hostile
I
environment.
agree. I think probably what it is.
Out of
I
hand.
think what happens, I think what happens is that you engage, and it becomes, I mean, is it, this match?
Yeah.
You know,
Yeah.
you try to
So now they're
answer,
going
I'm
back
like,
and forth.
You're
You're probably right.
probably argue back and forth.
Brian, you're right.
Anyway. So I think a lot of times you have that discussion, sometimes you put it in writing, and send it to them, and you talk about it, or afterwards, I mean.
And
About that
everybody
during
who
the meeting,
wanted,
I don't think.
who wanted to know any answers to the questions asked, Barb had a sign-up sheet there. They could put their email down, and Barb
Right.
will mass email them the answers that Sal
Correct.
provided. So it's, you know, I think it's there to keep the peace.
I think so.
You're probably right, Brian. That makes sense. If you're gonna do it after, you're right. Might as well do it during. That'd be disingenuous.
And it's kind of difficult when really the scope of the hearing is the pilot. It's not necessarily the technical aspects of where's this gonna be located, where's that gonna be located, you know? So it's somewhat a challenge, just given the scope of the purpose of the hearing.
And honestly, if we were gonna engage with the public, I would want our attorneys there. I would want the company that's applying for the pilot to be at every one of these.
You may end up having, in a discussion format, you may end up with a lot of technical aspects that really is an IDA, we're not.
And that's a really good point, RC, and I forget that sometimes. If you really think about the scope of it, we're only being asked to vote on the finances, not whether or not if somebody else is doing the seeker work, somebody else, the aesthetics of it, does it fit within what the village codes would allow, things like that, right? We're just voting on the framework of the finances. So you're right, I forget that. Like, you start to think about where it is and what it looks like. Those are things that really aren't within our perspective to think, to vote on.
And I do know in the past, I've been at ones where the pilot applicant is there and he will answer, or they will answer questions that the public may have at that time. They also do like a little presentation usually. So, going forward, if we got one that we feel we know ahead of time that there may be some public pushback on, or there may be a lot of questions, maybe require the pilot applicant to be there. Strongly suggest they be there. But
You know, like what Nathan was, he expected to be there, get some technical questions. He can't, but Shane, like when it gets to like the aesthetics of the location, that'd be planning board. Like, so that's addressed, it's just addressed through our rules.
That's why when they go through site plan review on a project like that with that kind of scale, they should have a public hearing, especially during the seeker process. They would have a public hearing where they can, bring up those environmental, citing all those questions. But for your public hearing, that's not the appropriate.
That's right. So that's a good point. I just make a good point. The scope of what we're responsible for is more narrow than sometimes I start to think about, right? So,
Well, yeah, I guess with that said, there have to be questions in my backyard, that kind of thing.
yeah.
So in response to the community, it's not a bad idea to have someone there that at least to some extent, at some level, can speak to some of those questions. It's not necessarily.
If they're allowed, and maybe, is that possible? Maybe that's the question. If we have a representative from the applicant, are they allowed to answer questions? I know the IDA board can, but is the applicant allowed? They're allowed to speak for 5 minutes.
So I think the way we did it in green, you were at that one, right? The pilot applicant presented prior to the public hearing, ahead of time, almost like an open air meeting. And then the public hearing was held, if I'm not mistaken.
So that we'll explore some different ways to be more
But
effective.
again, one person showed it. that wasn't part of the IDA.
Right.
We'll talk to Matt and Tom about ways that we might be able to be more effective without getting into any legal issues
Yeah.
as far as what we're requiring.
I get it. I mean, not only as a member of this board, but as a tax-paying person, I get it. It's gotta be frustrating to sit there and stare at me, ask a question, knowing they're not gonna get a response. At that
It was
point.
frustrating not to be able to answer them.
Yeah, oh, it's hard. I told Barb I have a tendency sometimes to want to answer and start to answer to kick me. You know, if I got too far into the weeds. She didn't kick me, so I must have been okay.
You did
I better sit next to me. All right, so I think we've got somebody from Northern Solar, now we do have Greg Sheldon here, so we should probably, I don't know that there's more interaction to do on Penn Solar other than to schedule it for a vote, invite the appropriate people here,
Nope,
including a representative from the
as long
solar.
as those answers have been sent out.
They have, they were completed, John will get them out by Friday, so.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so are we going back? to
Northern Solar, I think that's who's on right now.
I think that one's.
Oh, Matt, go ahead.
One quick interjection, one quick interjection on Payne, just for consideration. If we don't think they're moving at the speed of light, and we feel like there's significant feedback from the community that might be negative, where they want some answers. I'm not saying you need to do this, but one thing you could consider doing is letting the applicant know that there was a decent amount of pushback, reminding them that it doesn't seem like time is of the essence in terms of getting the application approved and the financial assistance approved. Would they be amenable to a second public hearing to address some of these concerns? And then Tom and I can look into what can occur at those public hearings in terms of back and forth and answering questions. I'm not saying you have to do that, but if the board feels like they need, the community to be a little bit more satisfied with the information that they have before the board acts upon it, that's certainly something we could consider.
That'd be something you guys would tell me you want, and I would go forward. Before you felt comfortable voting, you'd want me to schedule something like that. I'd be happy.
So I agree with Matt. Let's reach out to the applicant and make sure time's not of an essence at this point. I'm making an assumption based upon what I'm hearing. If it's not of essence, then let's take a little bit of time and we can discuss that option at the next meeting as well.
Okay, so John, take that as an action item for me to find out whether or not there's urgency to the solar project and they require a vote in August, or can we wait until September to have more public input?
Thanks, Matt.
You bet. And John, if you want to include Tom and myself in the communication, and we can let you know their counsel's contact information, just to hopefully get a more wholesome response from them. That would be fine. However you want to do it, but if you prefer that way, just let Tom and I know.
Yeah, we'll do that now. So John, you and I will circle back together later today or tomorrow. We'll get that, what we want to say to who we want to say it to, okay? But we know we want to include Matt and Tom.
Okay, thank you, guys. All right, backtracking on the agenda, it looks like we got a representative from Norbit here at this point. Go ahead, floor is yours.
Wonderful. So first of all, good morning to the board. My name is Victor Chacha. I work for Norbit Solar Farms. We're a solar energy company based out of Rochester, New York. The reason why I'm here is we've developed a 9.1 megawatt community solar project in the lovely town of Norwich, New York, in Chenango County. I know we met with the board, it was probably a few months ago now, when we were in the more early stages of the project to discuss doing a potential pilot with the IDA. And we feel that we're ready at this point to move forward with that application. We're looking to have our applications into the IDA probably by the end of the week. So we were just hoping to get onto the agenda, for today's meeting to reintroduce ourselves to the IDA and the project to the IDA as well, if there were any specific questions, and maybe ask the board if they could elucidate a little bit on what the approvals timeline might look like. And also as an aside, understanding that there will be a public hearing that will be part of this approval process. I don't anticipate that there's going to be a lot of local pushback just based on the zoning approval process, but we would be more than happy to send a representative out to that public hearing to answer any questions that might come up if the board or council finds that appropriate.
So go ahead and get the application in, then Barb can push it out to the board to review beforehand. If we're gonna have questions, we may invite you back to the next meeting as well, Victor.
Yeah, I would plan on that, Victor. Just plan on being here. We'll get that meeting to you. I would anticipate we'll have questions regarding that application.
Okay, and so that would be the August 21st meeting?
Correct.
Okay, thank you. And then a public hearing would likely be scheduled at that meeting.
Yeah, we would probably schedule that as long as the IDA said they wanted me to continue to move forward. I then schedule a public hearing for that. So then again, I tell you, ask for a timeline. I'm gonna tell you it's roughly, if it's smooth sailing, 90 days from the time you get the application. 90 days from the first board meeting after the application is in. So August 21st, then say a September meeting, and then probably October we would vote on it. So that's 60 days, I guess, after the next one, right?
Okay,
Does that make
okay,
that?
that's perfect.
That's if there's no issues. Does that roughly timeline work? 60 days, that's about Payne. That's about what it took us from the time we got the application on Payne Solar.
Right, I think 60 days is pretty much the best we could ask for.
That's the best, that's smooth sailing, nothing goes wrong, no issues whatsoever. You know, that's, some of them have taken 4 months to 6 months.
Absolutely, and I certainly won't hold it against you if something comes up, but we'll endeavor on our part to get the IDA everything they need to make the process as smooth as possible.
Good. Great, thank you.
Wonderful, thank you.
You're welcome, Victor.
I mean, we can do the 2 old pieces of business before Pete has to go, and then when we go into executive session, while there is no other business, so we don't have to come back on it again to conduct business
Okay.
and close the meeting at that.
So old business, NYSW, we have easement.
Completely filed, we're ready to go. I think everything's good there. The attorneys helped us. I think we're completely done with that easement issue. Closed. Gonna take that off.
Preferred?
Done. We got a $10,000 deposit. I started the meeting. We'll tour that building at 9 o'clock. And then I'll tour it with the principal design. IDA is one step closer to owning it. We should, I hope, close by September 1st, which is good news. We've met with Chris and Missy Hayes. Chris Hayes and his partner, Adam Bosworth. Totally understand. We go to a month-to-month lease here. It's already part of our contract, so there's no penalties. They were very, very, very cooperative and understanding. They're hoping we would give them 90 days notice for Commerce Chenango, just so that they have time to prepare and plan. Reasonable, because I'm gonna need some time to set things up over there. What do I wanna do here? So I said I would do everything I could to give them 90 days. They didn't require it, but they said that would be great if you could help us with that. So, we're moving forward. It's great news, and it's something that I think, honestly, some people have asked me about taking it off the tax rolls, specifically City of Norwich, representative from the town and the county have asked me why and I said, listen, the goal would be ultimately to utilize that upper section for some type of for-profit entity. We would love to be able to turn that into some kind of incubator, workforce development center, continuing education piece for BOCES. Now the idea is getting rent out of that facility and we're making money on it. We could potentially then put it partially back on the tax rolls. The other thing to consider is Preferred Mutual's been a tremendous partner. That building pays as much taxes as the entire Woods Corners facility because they've never grieved their taxes, even though it's empty. They tried to sell it for $300,000 and it didn't sell. Whoever bought that building was going to grieve those taxes and get them lowered, right? And I didn't want somebody to buy that building and just leave it empty because they could get it for $150,000. Preferred's been maintaining it at 70 degrees. Everything in it is pristine. We can move in it tomorrow. I didn't want that building to become an eyesore in the center. Now, the IDA doing that is a really, really good thing for our community. We'll turn that around, hopefully turn it into somewhere, again, we can do some type of incubation. I know for sure we can use that foyer for our tourist bureau, right? We can put out all of our brochures because it's a locked vestibule. So when people come in, they have access to pamphlets and brochures and information. I know we can use the upstairs when we have to rent facilities or places for the Commerce Chenango. So again, there's lots of opportunities for it. I'm glad we did it, Brian. I think it'll be good for the community. We'll go look at it at 9 o'clock if anybody wants to tour. That's it.
Okay, we do have a need to go into executive session today to talk about, negotiations, contract negotiations, with a potential project. Need a motion to go into executive session.
So moved.
Second.
Any discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye, sorry, normally we roll call vote, sorry. So we're currently in executive session, we can turn off the taping. Thank you for joining us.
Shay, you can stay, you're aware of this conversation, there's no reason not to stay.
Yep.